Hi, welcome to Logistics Unlocked, a podcast by Alpega. Here we focus on the decision shaping modern logistics. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Nikolay Pargov. Nikolay, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You've been part of this industry for a while. Could you briefly share your journey and the perspective you bring today?
Yeah, I have spent around 23 years actually in logistics. I've been first more on the industry side with large freight forwarders and carriers. I've also been on the technology side of the industry, but I guess the common theme has always been that I've always been at the intersection between the industry and technology. So somehow, even in my freight forwarding roles and experience, I've always been involved with software. And I guess that's the perspective that I can bring today.
Perfect. And I'd like to start here. So you've led, as you said, carrier, platform, global logistic organization. What has changed in the logistic over the last decade, and maybe what surprisingly hasn't?
I think what has changed actually is that the industry has adopted a lot more technology than 10 years ago. Topics like real-time visibility were just starting to become fancy in 2016. Stuff like AI agents, we couldn't even imagine at that time. So definitely there is a lot more usage of software from the boardroom down to operations and to planners. What surprisingly hasn't changed, I think the industry is still behind other industries when it comes to using technology, and it feels that interoperability is an issue. It feels very fragmented and disjointed, no standard rules and processes in place. So I think that's still a lot of opportunity to actually improve in that area.
That's interesting. And the last 5 years have been a stress test for the industry, often leading to digital transformation. What conditions are usually in place to make successful transformation in logistics?
I would actually start with the opposite statement. So what are the few things that can actually ensure that the digital transformation will fail? I think starting this as a technical project is extremely risky. It always needs to start as a business transformation supported by software. I think starting without very clear understanding of what you would like to achieve after you have done with the implementation of it, in terms of how your company or business would be faster, better, more cost efficient. I think this is also a very big risk. And the third one is having too many decision makers, which might be a bit counterintuitive, but I've seen that this leads to a lot of challenges down the road.
Okay.
So to make it work, I would say now the reverse statement, you need a very clear vision about your target operating model in the future and how are you going to create value as a business, and it needs to be owned by the business. Very tricky to actually push digital transformation from, let's say, the IT department to the business owners, to the P&L owners. It needs to be pulled by them. And something which makes leaders feel uncomfortable, I would say you should actually trust rather, a few decision makers to drive this forward. And the difficulty somehow is to stay disciplined, because these projects are usually
long,
3, 4, 5, 6 years. To stay disciplined and really execute, while at the same time constantly adjust, because the world around you is changing, your business is changing, technology is changing. So this is a very difficult balance, actually, how to not create scope creep on one hand, so kind of distract yourself and get confused and in the end fail, but also how not to be super rigid. So you ensure that if you are done in 5 years, it's still kind of an advantage and you're not behind the rest.
It's all about balance while keeping the North Star and strategic goal. I like to talk about operational excellence. So you've led one of the European largest asset-based transportation companies. What does operational excellence actually look like at a scale?
It's a very, very complex topic at that scale. If you have a company with 50 trucks, it's one thing. And if you have a company with 5,000 or more trucks, it's totally different. I think operations specifically is one area where scale works against you. So, for example, if you think procurement, the bigger you are, the better for you, right? So you can actually buy better at more competitive rates. In operations, in planning, in serving customers, actually, the bigger you are, the more complex it gets, and the more issues it actually creates. So there is a so-called coordination tax between all these departments and so on. So what's important, I would say, is two things. You need to have extremely granular data. It all needs to be facts and figures. And specifically the trucking industry, as many of our listeners know, actually is a low margin cyclical business. So every cent matters, and you need to know exactly, what are your revenue and cost drivers. So that's a lot of data that's necessary, and you need it on a daily basis to really drive the performance of the organization. And the second big element, which is also the most difficult to actually accomplish or change if it's not there, is the right culture, the right mindsets, this customer centricity, which in many cases can get a bit lost in large organizations. Again, it's much more easy to achieve if you are a 50 truck company or a 20 truck company, family business, than if you are a giant logistics player.
Makes sense. And what did you personally focus as a leader?
I will answer that actually more as a generic statement because it's applicable to actually all my leadership roles over the last 20 plus years. For me, it boils down to three elements actually. So first, it starts with the strategy and the business model, and making sure that your business model remains relevant, which means you need to constantly innovate. Otherwise, somebody else will out innovate you. Then it's about execution. So really making sure that you follow up and you execute on the strategy. And the third element is people. So someone I respect a lot, and I stole a quote from, said once that 90% of success is about execution, and 90% of execution is people. So breaking this down a little bit, as said, so on the strategy side, you need to have a North Star. You need to know where you're going, and it needs to be something that unites the team, but it's also resonating with the market, with your customers and your suppliers and your investors and everybody out there. So that's super critical. And on the execution, which in my view is even more important, not that you can survive without a strategy, but definitely without execution is hard. I'm a big fan of the word velocity, actually. So velocity for me, and not speed. And the difference is it's speed in a given direction, which is, again, the strategy and the North Star. And the other thing I would argue is also a no excuse type of execution. So that's my mantra. I think I listened actually to a very famous psychologist working with elite athletes.
Okay.
So the most famous and the best football clubs, professional boxers, all those people. And one thing I remembered from that actually was that every morning we all wake up and we can make a decision to be a fighter or to be a victim. Right. So, and if you're a fighter, you focus on the things you can control, and you give it your best during the day. And if you're a victim, then you always have an excuse why not to do stuff, and you always find a reason which is not related to you. So that's, I think, is super important in a company. And then the third element, which in essence is the foundation of everything else, people, having the right people in the right seats. Definitely has always been my framework.
Great. As the chairman of the board, you now sit on the technology side as well. Where do you see the biggest discrepancy between what logistics business need and what platform deliver?
I would focus actually on the future for one main reason. I believe we are at a pivotal moment for the software industry due to artificial intelligence. I'm definitely not on the proverbial hype train about vibe coding yet. Maybe in some years it will actually work. For now, it's good to accelerate some MVPs or some test products. But if you think about actually a senior engineer managing a group of junior engineers, which are in essence nowadays AI agents, it can be, I think productivity goes really up. And what that leads to is actually that for the first time in history, producing software, writing code is getting cheaper. So the 2-3 things that I believe are an outcome of that, data and network effects are becoming even more important. So this is a competitive mode. This is a defense that you have as a company. If you are just a software company that has put some workflow, some processes on in a digital environment on some screens, I think it's getting hard. The second thing is that distribution or sales and marketing is becoming even more important. If anyone can build products way faster than before, I think the companies with the best distribution will win. And the third one, which is actually answering the question, the software as a service industry standard at the moment and kind of the evolution was to have off-the-shelf solution with little to no customization. I believe that this shift that we are experiencing now in terms of producing software getting cheaper, more and more customers, starting with the very large enterprises, will actually push very hard to actually get the software adapted to their processes and to their daily reality, then changing the whole organization and all these processes to fit the software package. So this will be a very, very interesting space to watch because there'll be companies that come out of the gate. So these new startups that will kind of use this, and some of them already do, as their unique selling point. Hey, we can do everything you want pretty much. Their unit economics and their profitability are worse actually. So this will be a very, very interesting thing. But overall, I would say interoperability and somehow making all these software solutions work for a shipper or for a forwarder or an asset-based carrier is still a challenge. So this is probably still the missing link.
Thank you, Nikolay, for the sharing all this insight. Before we wrap up, I like to end up with our 2 signature questions. So my first one for you is, what is one industry rule you will change?
That may sound a bit provocative, but some parts of the mobility package.
And the next one, if there were one advice you could give to our audience, what will it be?
Every morning, decide to be a fighter.
Thank you very much, Nikolay. Have a great day.
Thank you.